In front of me is the Laowa production copy for the Canon RF. As you can see here, this is the Canon R5 with the Laowa lens, and this is the lens that I reviewed before, the CF Argus 33mm F0.95 APO lens. And today we'll take a look at the production version, and of course what's the difference between it and the pre-production version that I have reviewed earlier. I'm Richard and welcome to Zappy Productions, and today we will be looking at the Laowa CF Argus 33mm f0.95 APO lens. Now that is a really mouthful for a lens itself, but yes, that is the name of the lens and it is really long. Now this is the RF version, as you can see, mounted on my EOS R5, and this is the same one, just with some differences in terms of its body and of course the operation with the RF lens mount itself. But other than that, if you are interested to know the image quality, how it works in an actual world shoot, take a look at my previous review. I'll put the link up somewhere this side here, and then you can actually see how the images are from this lens itself. But that was shot with the Fujifilm X-S10. Today we'll look at the Canon R5 together with the Laowa lens. Now, just a note that I just received this copy, so I have not did much photo shoots with it yet. In fact, I have not did even a single photo shoot yet. I'll be looking at one in a near week or two because currently Singapore has just went back to phase 2, they call it. But yeah, there is some restrictions now, and I'm seeing how can I actually slot a shoot with this lens and this setup itself. But I will talk to you about some difference between this and of course the pre-production version that I received. Now, very simple. The biggest difference is the box itself. It has a box now, and then the name. Now this is called the CF Argus 33mm f0.95 APO lens, while the previous version I received was just called the Argus 33mm. And in fact, it is printed here. If you can't see this, let me show you this photo here. I took a few photos of this lens, and you can see this really long name for this lens itself. Now this is the RF mount version. So first I'll talk about the lens, then I'll talk about the operations with the RF, the R5 camera itself. So firstly, this is a production copy, so it is a lot better. You can see I'm turning it, and it is super smooth. This is buttery smooth. Now, is it the smoothest lens in the world? I think the Summilux 75mm from Leica is slightly smoother, but this is on par with almost any other manual lens that I have touched so far. Maybe the Summilux and maybe the Otus is slightly better, slightly smoother. But if not, it is as smooth as it gets, I think, for a manual focus lens. Now this is a manual focus lens, so it has hard stops. And then there is of course the aperture ring. And the aperture ring, just like my previous review, there is no clicks, but it is a lot tighter. So I guess you won't so easily hit it off. But no, when I was using it just now, I did shift it a bit from 0.95. It became like 0.99. That's what I'll say. Now, this is the RF version. Let me show you. This is the RF mount. So there is not adapter here. It is actually one whole piece. But there is, you notice, no contacts here. And this will actually affect how it operates with the R5. So this is a pure manual lens with no electronic contacts. Doesn't even communicate the distance or anything to the camera itself. Let me mount it back. Okay. Now, the other major difference, if you ask me, in terms of its body, other than its name and its much better mechanism and tolerance, is that its hood is now a rectangular one, you can see. And you can actually turn it out. It's quite hard to turn it out. And it's a rectangular hood, and it's a metal hood, which is much better than the previous one. I remember the previous one was a screw-on small rectangle hood, but this is a solid big one. And there's also a cover, which is in the box now. And the cover is a rectangular piece. Now, the cover is slot on. In fact, let me show you guys. By the way, this is the production box, so if you are going to buy a lens today, this is how it looks like. Laowa's packaging is pretty good, if you ask me. The only bad thing is that they didn't give any carrying case. Some people may care, some people may not care, but most people who buy modern DSLR lens expect a carrying case. While for manual lenses, when I was buying a Leica, I remember there was a carrying box, but there's no carrying case for Laowa lens. So the lens cover over the hood is this rectangular piece. Now this paste here is quite easy to drop out because it just slides on and off. So if you put it in your bag and stuff, I guess it will drop out easily. So just to note. This lens has a filter thread. You just have to unscrew this out and then there's a filter thread. It doesn't really write here how many millimeters is the filter thread. But I believe it's the same as the last one, 60 something millimeters from the looks of it. I'm not too sure, but I'll probably find out and tell you in the next video. Okay. So this is actually the lens itself. Other than that, there's really not much difference between this and the pre-production copy other than the sample word here, and much better tolerance, nicer hood, and then the printing of the full name. Now, on the R5, as this lens has no contacts, there are some things that are good and bad about it. So this is a manual lens. So firstly, on the camera itself, because it has no contacts, you have to set all your parameters properly in the camera, including the focal length for its image stabilization. You also have to set ability to release the shutter without a lens attached because the camera doesn't know that a lens is attached. And most importantly, the dual pixel manual focus assist doesn't work with this lens itself. So if you do not know what is that, think of it as two arrows and a box that will align to tell you it's in focus. For RF lenses or any lenses with a proper contact mount, and then you can communicate the distance of the lens to the camera itself, what happens is that this box will appear and you can actually do manual focus really quickly with it. Without that, what happens is that with a full manual lens like this, all you get is just peaking, if not magnification, on the screen itself. That is not that bad. I mean, that's a traditional way of doing manual focusing lens with the cameras themselves. So I don't think it's a big deal. But if you are used to the manual focus mechanism found within the EOS R series or the Cine camera series, you'll find that this is a little lacking. I mean, the metal contacts really make a difference in improving the manual focus quality. Okay, but there's a lot of ranting. So there are a few things that I noticed using the R5 that I would say is different from the XS10. Firstly is that the camera, this is a full frame and that was a crop sensor. So you may think that, maybe Laowa has made something to change it. No, this is still a crop sensor lens. I can show you that if you do not use it in the crop mode, this is what happens. You get really dark borders that cannot be corrected. So you have to use this in APS-C mode, which will crop down and result in about a 17 megapixel photo. That's about 17.2 megapixels to be exact. So that is what happens if you use a APS-C lens on the R5, 17.2 megapixel photos itself. Next is that, as I said, because there is no digital contact with this camera itself, you do lose all dual pixel features, and then you can manual focus with peaking and of course magnification. Now the biggest problem is that I noticed, I can't really show you here. I don't know whether, I don't think you can see here, but there is no focusing box. I do not know where am I going to manual focus on this camera here. Maybe I'm not really used to it. If somebody know how to do it, tell me. But I noticed that if you put a lens with no digital, no form of electronic contact with the R5, the box just disappears. So I have no idea where is my focusing box or anything. As such, when I shift the box around, I can't shift no box around. So when I manual focus, so I can show you here, I think you probably can see some resemblance on the screen here. When I zoom in, you can see I'm zooming in. I can actually shift the zoom around and you tell me where I'm zooming. But when I zoom out, I can't tell where am I zooming in the R5. So this is of course the first time I use a pure manual focus lens on the R5. As such, I was really, I guess, surprised that Canon doesn't even want to put me a box on the camera itself to tell me where am I going to zoom in. This is nothing to do with Laowa's problem. It's just everything about Canon and not liking manual focus lens with no electronic contacts. Now, in terms of using in the field, when I tried it myself, I will say it requires you peaking, but peaking is not very accurate with a 0.95 lens. I still think that you'll miss most of the time. You still have to magnify to 10 times and then focus from there to get the maximum accuracy from a 0.95 lens. So that's something to note. And then in terms of image stabilization, this lens does get a lot of image stabilization on the R5, more than the XS10. Based on my tests with the R5, I would say as if I was to shoot at 1/13 of a shutter, as you can see here, all of the shots will be usable, 10 out of 10 usable. So it is super good, the image stabilization. By the way, when this is in crop mode, it is about 50 mm. So you're talking about three stops effective. Let me see, 50, 25, 25, 12. About 2 stops, full 2 stops, fully effective image stabilization on the R5. And then if you try to go half the amount at 1.6, you don't get much keepers. You get about 50% keepers only. At least my hands cannot give me more than 50% keepers. So that's something to note. So with this lens and the R5, you get about at least 2 full stops of image stabilization. And then you can try your luck at another stop more to get 50% image stabilization. Okay, other than that, there's nothing much to say. I will let's show you some photos. I was trying the APO. So in the past, when Laowa first sent me the lens, they didn't say it's APO or anything. They just told me it's Argus 33mm lens. So when I tried it out, I found that it's relatively APO, which means that it doesn't have much chromatic aberration. Now, if you actually look at this photo here, there is some chromatic aberration in extremely silver case. This is like a silver ring, so you can see like a little bit chromatic aberration, but it is not bad because if you compare to the 35mm I show you here, the f1.8, even though it is f1.8, it has a red distinct chromatic aberration, which the Laowa doesn't have. And in fact, if you see the background, you notice that it's quite smooth. There's no other weird jitters and stuff. So I think the Argus lens still is relatively, if you ask me, APO, or at least closer to APO than any other lens that I know of this speed. Now, that's about it for today. I just want to share with you the production sample of the Laowa lens. It is a really nice build lens, and now with the production sample, it is better in terms of tolerance, tightness, and of course its build quality is top notch in this version itself. The only thing I don't like is this square cap that doesn't stay on. You can easily hit it off, so I don't like it. And that, I do hope that they still put the click here one day, if they can ever make a click version for photographers. But if not, I think it's a pretty nifty lens. I'll get some chance to use it in the next few weeks to do some portraiture, and hopefully I get some nice shots of it. Because when I tried this out with the XS10, it was really fantastic. Once again, if you have not seen the review, do click on the link up here, and then it brings you to the review itself. And that's about it for today. I think I spent a little bit too much time talking about this lens, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time where I will talk about the A7S III and a lens I purchased, the 20mm f2.8, no wrong, the 20mm f1.8 by Sony. That lens is really nice, and with the A7 III, it really does a good job for low light videos. I'll talk about it in the next episode, or maybe the episode after that. But till then, bye bye.